Okay, how did you meet or learn about Billy Meier the first time?
Well, Billy Meier came to stay at our place in India. It's Ashoka Mission Vihara, the temple that was run by my grandfather many years ago when I was about 10 or 11 years old. And that was when I first saw him there. Of course, I didn't know at the time that this is Billy Meier. It's just that he had stayed in our place for so long, and then other incidents happened that are connected to many things that later on I came to know that this person was Billy Meier.
What was special about him?
He was very quiet. He lived in our place for many months. I think more than 6 months on and off, and he had a couple of trips back and forth to our place. The things that I noticed that was very different from other people was that he was very quiet. He was very observant. He walk around. He used to have a pet monkey, walk around with the pet monkey on his shoulder, and he used to come and studied with my grandfather. And also I started to hear rumors from our gardeners and people who work at this place. We have about 20 or 25 workers working at various jobs, and some of them work at the youth hostel where he was staying. And I began to hear rumors that he have friends or he's following a spaceship and have friends that comes from another planet. And that was what was strange about him.
When did you become convinced by yourself that these rumors are true?
Well,
Okay.
I began to, when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I had an experience, or a couple of experiences that were very interesting to me. I would have a very beautiful lady visiting me in my bedroom when my brother and I go to sleep. She would come and impart certain knowledge, certain learnings to me through a non-verbal communication. I could, describe it as something that was directly transferred to me without words. And this went on for a few nights, and I just took it as something very natural. Being a child, to my child's mind, it was very something that was natural and was wonderful. And a year later, I saw Billy walking with the same woman that had visited me, and then I knew that this person, who later on I knew as Billy, must be a very nice person, since he's walking with the lady that I have become friends with, so she must also be my friend. And this is what I had come to the conclusion at the time.
How did the woman look like?
She looked very natural, like a human being, but more beautiful, more luminous. She was very, she looked like somebody who's in her early 20s, long, beautiful hair, kind of golden or darkish, brownish golden hair, very, just very beautiful to me. And when I saw her, when we met for the first time, I just knew that this is a being that I've known always. I don't know how I knew, and I had this feeling, but I've always known that I've known her. We had communication, talking about so many things, but it's a non-verbal communication. I cannot tell you what it is, but it is so natural to me that we would be communicating and exchange and discuss and so on. It's almost like a direct transfer between her and me to her. Maybe nowadays you can call it telepathy, I don't know, but all I knew is that it was a very natural way of communicating with her.
Describe me the situation when you saw Billy with the woman for the very first time.
I was sitting outside the window of my room, looking outside, you know, seeing people passing back and forth in the Ashoka Ashram compound. And then I turned towards my right on the path directly in front of the Ashoka Ashram. I saw two people walking slowly on the path towards the youth hostel. That's where Billy was staying. And the two person was Billy Meier, and on his side was this woman that later on I came to know that it was Asket from the Dal universe. They were talking very intensely, and she was at the same time when she was talking to me, when she was talking to Billy, I took note, and at the same time she turned and we kind of linked eyes, or met, our eyes met, and we knew instantly that Billy was not aware that I have noticed that they were walking, but she had known this fact. Somehow it came to me. But they were walking on a path from the well towards the youth hostel, talking very intensely. From that appearance, I knew then that they were friends, as I was friends of the lady. So from that meeting, I concluded that he is also a friend of mine, or he could be a friend of mine after being in the same company of the lady.
Have you ever seen a UFO over the Ashoka monastery?
I have seen for a few times UFO over the Ashoka Ashram. One time I saw just some kind of a disc-looking, blitzing out in and out of the sky. It was early evening, so it was not quite dark yet, and the disc looked it's almost like a round, but it looks kind of dark against the sky. So and it was moving fast in and out of the clouds, and changing position many times, and after a while it went away and then it came back. So now the disc looked very much like a disc against a gray sky, but the disc looked dark. So I knew then that it was something that was not clouds or not the moon or anything like that. But it was just a normal observation and observing something unusual happening, but it did not create a great astonishment to me. The other time, months later, I saw a huge big disc stationary on top, in the sky, but in that area where it could be directly observable from the Ashoka Ashram. And it was stationed there for quite a long time. Many people also saw it with me. Our workers, because actually I called my ayah and showed it to her, and she had noticed it. But you know, as I remember the time, there were no great astonishment or great excitement or anything. It's just a matter of factly an observation situation.
Do you know of many UFO sightings at the time when Billy was there in the Ashoka monastery?
I'm aware that there were people that had seen the UFO over the Ashoka Ashram, but at the time when when Billy was there, I myself did not remember or take note that I have seen something while he was staying.
Sure, but are you aware of people who saw UFOs during the time Billy was there?
I seem to remember that there were a few people who worked in our compound that have seen the UFO at the time, and they directly connected to Billy and his following of this UFO, which they say that he has friends from another world that seems to be coming from heaven.
And did the media react? Was there a newspaper article about it?
Of course, now I'm aware of this, but at the time I am not aware of that.
Oh, okay. Let me quickly change the tape. One moment. Oh, actually, we have 5 more minutes on the tape. Okay, good. Tell me of some of the eyewitnesses and what they saw.
Well, of course, the closest person that had any communication or contact with us, and I think Billy also, was the head gardener, who's now is a very old man. But he's, thank goodness, last year as I saw him, he was still alive. So let's hope that he's still around for us to meet him again. But he was the one who had told me that at the time he brought a lot of information about Billy and what he had told people, or people have heard of Billy's having chasing after the ship or having talks with people who came from those ships.
How did the gardener describe these people?
Well, as far as I remember, the gardener did not say that himself we have seen those people. It's from what Billy probably have told him, of him, imparted this information to him. But he seemed to say, oh, it's some beautiful lady from heaven, some queen of heaven of some sort. This is how they describe Billy and his friends, that he is very much into the friends that he had from another world.
You went to India last year to trace down eyewitnesses. What was the result of the trip? What did you find out?
We went to India last year in order to trace, to try to find out how many of those people that had lived with us at the time still around at the Ashoka Ashram or still alive. And we were able to contact 2 or 3 people, and 3 other people who I knew had very close knowledge about this thing. One passed away, unfortunately. It was my ayah, or my nurse, who would have more tales to tell. But sadly for me, I was very close to her. She passed away. And then another gardener also is not is unreachable. Cannot trace him. I was able to trace, thank God, our main head gardener of the ashram, and a few others I was not able to find, because most of them returned from, left the ashram after we left India to United States, and went back to their villages, which are many days away from New Delhi.
What kind of person was Billy when you met him, when you observed him? Tell me a little bit about his personality, what was special about him, that he had a monkey, Emperor Hanuman, and so on.
Well, you see, the image I had of him when I was a child, Billy, when he came to stay at our place, was that he was very, seems to be a nice man, had a very kind of penetrating eyes. This is what I had noticed when he passed close enough to my place, to us, and whenever he come to visit grandfather, if I happens to be near and observe him, that's what I noticed, that he had very nice penetrating eyes, and eyes that was kind of unusual in the sense that they would bow down to you and look for the truth somehow. It's an eye that makes you feel that you can trust the person. I cannot explain to you why I felt that, but this is how I felt at the time. Even now, when I saw him, it's the same eye expression in the eye. He was very quiet. He was always very observant of things. He was very curious about many things. Especially, he was very interested in wild life, wild animals. You know, snakes and scorpions and so on. Actually, he's at the Ashoka Ashram. He was quite well known among the workers that he's very knowledgeable in catching snakes. with his just a stick and bare hands. So he was known to be quite fearless. So these are things that was, all this information about him came to me from all the workers' report. And I also observed him, and this is what I found. He was, he always dressed, very quietly like the natives, and was very respectful of other people, very unusual or different from others who had passed through our place and was staying at the ashram. Most of them are really noisy, boisterous, very just a normal tourist. But I think Billy wanted probably to know more about things, but he was not, at least as far as I know, he was not very any noisy, boisterous, or nosy about things that. Well, of course, being a child, there was something else also that I remembered. Billy Meier had a little pet monkey who was a very nice trained monkey. He would have him sit on his shoulder, and sometimes he would feed banana to the monkey while perched on his shoulder. So all these things, walking around the ashram with the pet monkey, was very enticing to young people, to myself and my brother, especially my younger brother, who would always was very taken by the monkey and would walk to Billy and maybe talk to him, chat, and then tease the monkey, and then all that. But Billy was quite very guardful of the monkey. Actually, he didn't like children to tease the monkey too much. So all these things, but he allowed you to treat the monkey well and play with them, but not tease, as children would want to do. So these are things. And from that, I think he had quite an interaction with my younger brother, more than myself, because I was just observing from afar and enjoying the sight. But actually, as to a personal talk or communication with him, or just go up to Billy and talk to him, I did not. We were not brought up to be talking to strangers like that. But I observe all these things. So that's why I noticed when he came to our ashram for the first time and stayed for a long time, and then he left. And then when he came back again, he had lost his arm, and then he went back again. And when he came back, I knew that he also came back with his wife, Poppy. So both of them stayed at the ashram for a while, and then left the Ashoka ashram for good. So I knew then that they had passed through many times the Ashoka ashram, and many times that he passed through, he still maintained his way of relating to people, how he relate to the place that he stayed and to our place. Come in and out very quietly, not taking people's attention or making a lot of things that would attract attention on him, because he would always, as I said, dress quietly, dress very normally, like a normal traveling person. But only the last time when he came to the Ashoka ashram with his wife Poppy, that I noticed he dressed a little bit like what I would say a Muslim dress, the long white pants and long white robes. So two of them looked like an Islamic imam or something. That's what I remembered when I was a child.
Anything you would like to add?
Well, I would like to say that now that we have, many decades later, Billy and I met again. I went to Switzerland and saw him, and after that I returned to see him and introduce my husband to Billy. I still find Billy almost, the same, in the sense that he still have this very nice, penetrating eyes, the eyes that would look at you, and of course, you will feel that this is the eye that you cannot lie to. You look at the eye and you feel you have to tell the truth. it's almost somebody who have a soul, and from that soul look to your soul, and this is what I feel. And I always felt, Billy is a part of my family. I think we share this mutual feeling. And my experience, somehow our experience converged to a point. It's only now it's unfold when I see him in Switzerland.
When you saw the photo of Asket, what was your first reaction on it?
When I visited Billy for the first time, when we shared the information about my experience with Asket and his meeting Asket at the Ashoka, and then he showed me a photo of Asket, and I was very surprised. I told Billy, well, Billy, this is not the Asket that I met, because the Asket that I met had long black, for me, dark hair. It's not even black. It's like a dark brown hair, but definitely not this white blonde hair. And so, but the face is similar to the Asket. It could be passed as Asket, but the face is very closely resembling, except for certain bone structure, which is not like that. But the hair definitely is not blonde. I told Billy that, and he laughed and said, yeah, that is true. You are the only one that saw Asket at the time in India, because this is a later picture of Asket when she went back to her Dal universe. They used some kind of a herbal concoction on the hair for, he said at the time she had some ailment, headaches or something, through all this traveling. And she used a herbal concoction that eventually turned her hair blonde for this ailment. So this is what he told me. So that could explain why she is now blonde hair. But the time I remembered, she definitely had beautiful darkish brown, like a brownish golden hair, much more golden when I saw her walking around at the ashram. It's like a dark gold hair.
Make your original statement just in a different version. That, when Billy was there, you saw this man walking around with a lady, and you had the feeling he must be a good man because you remember the lady, and then you tell a little bit about your experience. Just give me this version.
Billy Meier was staying at our Ashoka Ashram in India. Of course, I knew that he was one of the many visitors that passed through our place. Of course, at the time, I didn't know his name was Billy, and I did not have any, communication with him. But one day, I saw him, this person, walking with a lady that I have many experiences with. She used to, many months ago, before I saw them together, this lady would visit me in my bedroom, would communicate or exchange information with me, and we would always have this little talks about so many things. Even now, I cannot tell you exactly what we talk about, but as I live my life, once in a while I know that these are certain information that she had imparted on me, that I knew that it becomes a part of my life as I grew up from childhood onwards. She had visited me in my room many times, and one of those times she visited me again after exchange of conversation through non-verbal communication. One time she sat on the head of my bed, put my head on her lap, and stroked my hair and started to sing, but not sing in the sense of having any sound or anything, but the sound that came out was some kind of a very beautiful high note toning. It was not a singing that I've ever experienced since or ever. It's a very strange thing, but I knew that it was some kind of a singing to me. And she stroked my hair as I was laying on her, my head was on her lap. And I knew that this is a real solid person that had come into my room, shared with me many information, and then just left or disappeared. To me, Asket is as real as you and me. She is a human being, or she appeared to me as human being, but I know that she is a human form or human that is not from here. This is what I get from the information that she had imparted to me, that she is like us. She is as solid as in the body as you and me, but she is not from Earth. When I was laying on her laps and she was stroking my hair and singing this tone, this beautiful high-pitched tone to me, it's just it's amazing how I felt that I've known her forever. I've connected to her, and I felt like this is it's very difficult to describe, but I just felt totally at ease, and she's just like my mother or my sister or somebody like myself. And this is how I knew her. So a year later, I think many months later, or I felt this more than a year later, then I saw during one of his stay in the Ashoka Ashram, I saw him walking with the Asket, or these beings that I had very close communication with. I was not very surprised. I don't know why I didn't feel very surprised, but I felt kind of happy that he is the being walking with another being. She is with another person who is later on I knew as Billy Meier. So Billy also must be a friend of mine, because he is a friend of this being whom I have very close connection with. So after I saw them walking together, communicating together, while I was thinking all these thoughts and observing this, she turned and saw me watching both of them. So she right away, there was a click of our thoughts, or our eyes clicked together, and we kind of acknowledged each other that we note these facts. But Billy was so intensely talking to her, he did not notice all that and continued his walk with her. And that is when I knew that he's also a friend of mine, because he is a friend of hers. And this is how I came to this conclusion when I was a child, seeing them walking around at the ashram.
Did other people saw her too?
A few days later, one of the head gardeners came and told me that, oh, hey, he was walking around with this woman from heaven that he has been chasing in the spaceship. This is what he said to me. So I knew then that either he had told the gardener or the gardener himself had seen this, but he was the only one that saw them walking around together, because I had told my ayah about this fact and she couldn't see anything. And many people was walking around also near them on the path, but they did not see Asket. They just saw him walking slowly around and as if he was talking to himself. So these are facts. I know that there are people that have seen them, and there are people that didn't see them who happens to be there at the same place.
Very strange.
So it is strange to me.
Can you, now we were disturbed and everything, in a condensed, short version, you saw Billy there walking with this woman, you remember you saw the woman a year before or something like this, and you had a communication with her, and then you saw Billy and you realized he is a friend because he is with the same being, just in a condensed form.
So Billy has stayed in our place for a few times, in and out, and for a long time he had stayed there, had studied maybe from my grandfather and from many people that also had been in that area, in Ashoka Ashram. Oh, beautiful.
You know, it might be better if you stood up, Michael, so you can get further. We get this whole picture in.
Sure.
Oh, nice.
I take another
Look
one.
like Asket, is it?
I take another one. The full one?
Wait. on here.
Okay, perfect.
Why is Alpha? Plastic.
And I take another one. There's a bigger close-up of you. Is this your brother?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
That's the.
Beautiful.
Wow, that comes out great.
So it's...
And you. This one?
no, the one where he is lying and teaching.
Sacred part of it.
The Aditon, yeah. Okay.
Holy
Perfect.
writings books
In the temple.
in the temple. 160